The warning from the void. The Great Hall of the Galactic Concord had stood for 17,000 cycles, a monument to unity carved from crystallized starlight and quantum-forged metals. Its vaulted ceiling displayed the living map of known space, 10,000 civilizations, each represented by a pulsing node of light, all connected by the silver threads of trade, diplomacy, and shared law. Chancellor Zathrix of the Archel Dominion stood at the center podium, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of benevolent authority. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed obsidian black beneath the chamber's ethereal glow, and his compound eyes swept across the assembled delegates with practiced confidence. Honored representatives, his voice resonated through translation matrices, reaching every species in their native tongues. We stand at the threshold of a new era. The Outer Rim surveys are complete. We have cataloged every star system, every habitable world, every trace of sentient life within our reach. Murmurs of approval rippled through the chamber. The delegates, scaled, furred, crystalline, gaseous, represented the pinnacle of galactic civilization. They had conquered disease, poverty, war itself. The Concord was eternal. The Concord was inevitable. There remains but one anomaly, Zathrix continued, his tone shifting to something darker. A small blue world in Sector 774, designation Sol 3, local name. He paused, mandibles clicking with what might have been amusement. Earth. A three-dimensional projection bloomed above the assembly. A world of swirling white clouds, vast blue oceans, and green-brown continents. Primitive. Unremarkable. The inhabitants call themselves humans, Zathrix said. They possess rudimentary space travel, nuclear fission, digital communication networks. By Concord standards, they are children playing with fire. Ambassador Vrel of the Sisterhood of Luminance, a being of pure, coherent energy contained within a crystalline lattice, pulsed with curiosity. Then why do we discuss them at all, Chancellor? Surely they warrant only a standard integration protocol. That was my assessment as well, Zathrix admitted, until 3 cycles ago. The projection changed. Static filled the chamber, but not ordinary static. Every translator in the room began screaming feedback. Delegates clutched at their communication implants. The very walls seemed to vibrate with a frequency that bypassed technology entirely and resonated in the marrow of bone, the lattice of crystal, the quantum foam of consciousness itself. And then, from within the chaos came a voice. It spoke no language. It predated language. Yet every being in that chamber understood. Never awaken humanity's wrath. The message cut off. Silence fell like a physical weight. For 17 seconds no one spoke. No one moved. Then Ambassador Vrel's lattice flickered with what might have been fear. That signal signature. Chancellor, do you know what that was? Impossible to determine, Zathrix said, but his certainty had cracked. The transmission originated from deep space, beyond the Veil Nebula, from coordinates that should be empty. Those coordinates are not empty. The voice came from the shadows at the chamber's edge. Archon Talvis, the Concord's eldest historian, emerged into the light. His species, the Kaelvor, were among the first to achieve faster-than-light travel, and Talvis himself had witnessed the rise and fall of 3 major civilizations. He looked old, older than stars had any right to burn. Those coordinates, Talvis continued, his voice like wind through ancient stone, mark the approximate location of the architect's tomb, what your histories call the place of first memory, what the oldest records call the cradle of the ancient ones. A collective intake of breath, or its equivalent across 100 different respiratory systems. The ancient ones, beings of myth. Gods, demons, or warnings, depending on which legend you believed. Civilizations that had shaped the galaxy eons before the Concord, before even the oldest spacefaring races. They had built wonders, committed horrors. And then, according to every fragmented record that remained, they had simply vanished. You're suggesting, Zathrix said slowly, that we received a message from entities that have been extinct for over 1 million cycles? I am suggesting, Talvis replied, that extinction may not be the correct term. The ancient ones did not die. They chose to sleep. And apparently they left warnings. About humans? Vrel's disbelief was palpable. That primitive species? This is absurd. Talvis activated his own display. Ancient glyphs cascaded across the projection, writing so old it predated most modern languages by epochs. I have spent the last 3 cycles cross-referencing every archive, every forbidden text, every whispered legend we possess. The pattern is consistent. In every culture, every mythology, there exists a story about the variant, a species the ancient ones encountered that defied all cosmic law. A people who should not have survived yet thrived, who turned every disaster into evolution, who, when cornered, did not surrender. The glyphs shifted, reforming into a symbol that made every delegate instinctively recoil. A simple circle. Inside it, a single hand, palm forward, 5 fingers spread wide. The mark of the unbroken, Talves whispered. The ancient ones used this symbol as a warning. They placed it on worlds they deemed too dangerous to touch, too unpredictable to contain. And according to these texts, they placed it on exactly one inhabited world in the entire galaxy. Sol 3. Zathrix breathed. Earth, Talves confirmed. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted, buzzed, pulsed, vibrated their objections. This was insanity. Superstition. The Concord was built on reason, on science, on the absolute certainty that the universe could be understood and controlled. Zathrix raised all 4 arms. Silence gradually returned. Archon Talves, the Chancellor said carefully, I respect your scholarship, but you are asking me to believe that an ancient, possibly extinct civilization left a warning about a species that has only achieved spaceflight in the last century. How is this possible? Time, Talves said simply, is not as linear as we prefer to believe. The ancient ones existed outside conventional causality. They could see patterns across eons, probabilities, inevitabilities. He gestured at the projection of Earth. Perhaps they saw what humanity would become. Or perhaps they already knew them. This is speculation, Zathrix said, but his voice lacked conviction. Then allow me to speculate further, Talves replied. Every species the Concord has integrated follows predictable patterns. They resist briefly. They negotiate. They submit to the greater good. It has happened 10,000 times. His ancient eyes fixed on the Chancellor. But what if this time is different? What if the ancient ones left that warning for a reason? What if humanity is the variable we cannot account for? Then we study them, Zathrix declared. We send observers, diplomats. We determine if this threat is real or merely the echo of dead gods telling ghost stories. And if the threat is real? Vrel asked. Zathrix's mandibles clicked, a sound that in Archal physiology indicated absolute certainty. Then we will do what the Conquered has always done. We will contain it, control it, or if necessary, he paused, neutralize it. The vote was called. The motion passed. The Concord would make contact with humanity. As the delegates filed out, Archon Talves remained, staring at the projection of Earth, at that small blue world swimming in the dark. You should have listened, he whispered to the empty chamber. The Ancient Ones did not leave warnings lightly. They built this message into the fabric of space itself because they knew. They knew what happens when you back a human into a corner. The projection flickered. For just a moment, less than a heartbeat, the image of Earth was replaced by something else. A field of stars. And in the center, burning with light that should not exist, was that symbol again? The mark of the unbroken. Talves closed his eyes. May the cosmos have mercy on us all. The variable they could not predict. 6 months later, Mars Orbital Defense Platform, Athena Commander Elias Ward stood on the observation deck, watching Earth rise over Mars's rust-colored horizon. The blue marble of humanity's homeworld hung in the black like a promise, like a memory, like something worth dying for. Commander. The voice in his neural link was crisp, professional. Lieutenant Chen, his tactical officer. The Conquered delegation has entered Martian space. They're requesting permission to proceed to Earth. Tell them to hold position, Elias said, and bring the fleet to yellow alert. Sir, this is supposed to be a diplomatic mission. Lieutenant, when someone shows up at your door with 17 warships, that's not diplomacy. That's a threat with better manners. Elias pulled up the tactical display. The Conquered fleet hung in formation, sleek vessels that looked more like sculptures than warships. Beautiful, elegant. And according to every scan his people had run, armed with weapons that could crack a planet. They'd arrived 3 months ago, announcing themselves as representatives of the Galactic Concord, extending an invitation for humanity to join the greatest civilization in the known universe. The offer came with terms, of course: disarmament, integration, submission to Concord law. In exchange, humanity would receive technology, protection, and a place among the stars. The United Earth Council had been divided. Some saw opportunity. Others saw colonization wearing a friendly mask. Elias saw something else. He saw the way the Concord ships positioned themselves near every major human installation. The way their diplomatic envoys asked very specific questions about Earth's military capabilities. The way they smiled when humans explained that Earth had no unified military, only a patchwork of national forces and a barely tested planetary defense network. They thought humans were prey. Sir? Incoming transmission from the Concord flagship. Chancellor Zathrix himself. Put him through. The hologram materialized on an imposing figure of black chitin and compound eyes. When Zathrix spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia. Commander Ward, I trust you have reconsidered your planet's reluctance to embrace our generous offer? Chancellor, Elias replied evenly, I've reviewed your terms. With all due respect, they read less like an invitation and more like an annexation. Zathrix's mandibles clicked. Commander, you must understand. The Concord has integrated 10,000 species. We have perfected the art of bringing order to chaos. Your kind is young, impulsive, prone to violence. You require guidance. We've heard that before, Elias said. Usually right before someone tries to conquer us. Conquer? Zathrix sounded genuinely offended. Commander, we are offering you a future. Without the Concord's protection, humanity will destroy itself. Your history is a catalog of wars, genocides, near extinctions. You are a species perpetually on the brink of collapse. And yet, Elias said quietly, we're still here. Something flickered in Zathrix's compound eyes. Confusion. Irritation. You have 3 solar rotations to deliver your answer, the Chancellor said. Join us peacefully or, he paused, we will be forced to implement integration protocols by alternative means. The transmission cut. Lieutenant Chen's voice was tight. Sir, that sounded like a declaration of war, Elias finished. Yeah, it did. He pulled up a private channel. General Okonkwo, are you listening? The response came immediately. General Amara Okonkwo, Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Coalition, materialized in holographic form. She looked exhausted, determined, every word she said. The council is in emergency session. Half of them want to surrender. The other half want to fight. And you? Amara smiled grimly. I'm a student of history, Commander. I know what happens to species that surrender their sovereignty. They stop being species. They become footnotes, then we fight. With what? Amara's laugh was bitter. The Concord has 17 warships in our space. Each one could level a continent. We have, 12 planetary defense platforms? 100 outdated missile cruisers? 3 barely functional railgun satellites? We have more than that, Elias said. Enlighten me. We have 4 billion years of evolution that taught us one thing: how to survive when everything wants us dead. We have 10,000 years of warfare that taught us how to turn disadvantages into weapons. And we have one thing the Concord doesn't. What's that? Spite. Elias's smile was sharp as broken glass. They think we'll fold because we're outgunned. They think we're predictable, controllable. He pulled up a file on his display. Did you read the report from Lieutenant Zhao? The one about that ancient signal? Amara nodded slowly. The warning. Never awaken humanity's wrath. You think that was real? I think, Elias said, that someone sometime learned what happens when you push humans too far. And I think the Concord is about to get a refresher course. You have a plan. I have 17 plans. Most of them are insane. A few might actually work. Good enough. Amara's hologram straightened. You have operational command, Elias. Do what needs to be done. The connection closed. Elias turned to Lieutenant Chen. Recall all personnel, battle stations, and initiate Protocol Thermopylae. Chen paled. Sir, that's a last resort, Elias confirmed. Which is exactly what we're at. Move. As Chen rushed to comply, Elias looked back at Earth. At home. He thought about his daughter, living in New Tokyo, 8 years old. Loved dinosaurs and wanted to be an astronaut. He'd promised her he'd be home for her birthday. He wasn't sure he'd keep that promise. but he'd make damn sure she had a world to grow up in. 3 days later, the Battle of Mars. They came at dawn. Not that dawn meant anything in space, but there was something poetic about the Concorde fleet advancing as Earth's Terminator line swept across the Pacific. 17 warships, moving in perfect formation, their weapon systems painting the void with targeting arrays. They expected capitulation. They got hell. All platforms, this is Ward. Elias transmitted on all channels. Weapons free. Make every shot count. And remember, they think we're primitives. Let's show them what that means. The first Concorde ship entered firing range of platform Athena, and Elias sprang the trap. What the Concorde didn't know, what their scans couldn't detect, was that humanity had spent 3 months seeding Mars orbit with thousands of autonomous drones. Not fancy. Not elegant. Just repurposed mining equipment with bombs strapped to them. When Athena's railguns opened fire, they weren't aiming at the Concorde ships. They were aiming at the drones. Kinetic rounds moving at relativistic speeds hit the drones. The explosions created debris fields moving at lethal velocities. And Newton's laws did the rest. The lead Concorde ship didn't even have time to raise shields before it was shredded by a storm of shrapnel moving at 30,000 meters per second. Its death was spectacular. A chain reaction of containment, failures that turned it into an expanding sphere of plasma. 1 down, Chen reported, her voice shaking with adrenaline. 16 to go. The Concorde fleet reacted instantly, shields snapping into place, point defense systems coming online. They were no longer advancing. They were adapting. Phase 2, Elias ordered. Hit them with everything we've got that's outdated, broken, or useless. Make them waste ammunition on garbage. Earth's orbital defense platforms opened fire. Missiles streaked toward the Concorde fleet, but not the modern ones. These were decommissioned Cold War relics, museum pieces, the kind of technology the Concorde would have laughed at, and the Concorde fleet wasted precious antimatter warheads swatting them down. They're burning through defensive munitions, Chen said. Estimates show 30% expenditure. Good. Elias pulled up tactical. Now phase 3. Target the flagship. Everything we've actually got. Platform Athena's main railgun, a weapon designed to intercept asteroid threats, aligned on the Concorde flagship. It fired once, the round was nothing fancy. Just tungsten. Mass times velocity equals dead aliens. The flagship's shields held. Barely. The impact sent the massive vessel tumbling, its formation collapsing, and in that moment of chaos, Commander Elias Ward transmitted on all frequencies. Chancellor Zathrix, this is your last chance. Leave our system now, or I show you what happens when you corner a human. Sir, response was immediate. Every Concorde ship opened fire. Simultaneously, the sky turned to fire aboard the Concorde flagship Eternal. Dominion Chancellor Zathrix gripped the command throne as his ship shuddered under the primitive bombardment. Alarms screamed. Damage reports flooded in. Impossible. These savages, these barely spacefaring children were hurting his fleet. Status! He roared. The Celestial Mercy is destroyed, his tactical officer reported, compound eyes wide with shock. The Harmonious Unity has lost shields. The Gentle Integration is venting atmosphere. How? Zathrix demanded. They have no weapons capable of... They're not using conventional tactics, Chancellor. They're using debris, refuse. They turned their own garbage into weapons. They're fighting like barbarians, Zathrix finished. A cold realization crept through him. Because that's what they are. He pulled up the transmission Archon Talvis had shown the Council. That ancient warning, never awaken humanity's wrath. Pull back, he ordered suddenly. All ships withdraw to... The command was cut short by an impact that nearly tore the flagship in half. On his screens, Zathrix watched in horror as human ships, barely armed vessels cobbled together from mining equipment and transport craft, swarmed his fleet like insects. They didn't fight with honor, with strategy, with sense. They fought like a species that had climbed to the top of their food chain by being meaner, nastier, and more stubborn than anything that tried to eat them. One human ship, a converted cargo hauler, rammed directly into a Concorde destroyer. Both vessels exploded. The humans had used their own ship as a missile. They're insane, his tactical officer whispered. No, Zathrix said quietly. They're desperate, and that makes them infinitely more dangerous. Another transmission. Commander Ward's face streaked with sweat and blood from a head wound. His smile was terrible. Still here, Chancellor. Still breathing. Still fighting. You want Earth? Come and take it. And in that moment, as his fleet burned around him, Chancellor Zathrix finally understood the warning. Humanity wasn't just another species. They were the echo of something older. Something that had made even the Ancient Ones afraid. They were survivors, and survival had no rules. Retreat, Zathrix ordered, his voice hollow. Full retreat. Get us out of this system, now. Platform Athena, command deck, sir. Lieutenant Chen's voice cracked with disbelief. The conquered fleet is... They're withdrawing. Elias Ward watched the enemy ships break formation, their faster-than-light drives engaging, reality tearing open to swallow them. They'd done it. Against impossible odds, humanity had won. But Elias felt no triumph. Only a cold certainty settling in his bones. Chen, he said quietly, send a message to Earth Command. We won the battle, but the war. He looked at the debris field where human and alien ships burned together. The war just started. Sir, we humiliated them, made them look weak in front of the entire conquered. They'll be back, with more ships, more firepower, and next time, he didn't need to finish. Chen understood. But then something happened that changed everything. Every screen on the platform flickered, every display, every holographic interface, and a message appeared. In every human language simultaneously. Well done, children of Earth. The Ancient Ones see you. The Ancient Ones remember. The cosmos is watching. Make us proud. The message vanished as quickly as it appeared. Elias stared at the space where it had been. His blood running cold, Lieutenant, he said slowly. Get me every expert we have on ancient civilizations, xenoarchaeology and cosmic mythology. Right now. Why, sir? Elias pulled up the symbol that had appeared alongside the message. A circle, a hand, 5 fingers, the mark of the unbroken. Because, he said, I think we just got the galaxy's attention, and I think someone or something very old just made it clear that humanity has friends we never knew existed. Is that good news, sir? Elias thought about the warning, about ancient beings powerful enough to leave messages that lasted 1,000,000 years, about what it meant that they were watching Earth. I honestly don't know, Lieutenant, but I know this. Whatever happens next, humanity just proved something to the universe. We proved we don't break. We don't surrender. We fight. He looked back at Earth rising over Mars like a promise, and now the whole damn galaxy knows it. 3 months. After the Battle of Mars, the Great Hall of the Galactic Conquer, the emergency session had been called at the insistence of 17 member civilizations, all of whom had representatives aboard the ships that limped back from Sol system. The Great Hall, once a symbol of unity and order, now felt like a pressure cooker on the verge of explosion. Chancellor Zathrix stood at the center podium, his exoskeleton bearing fresh scars from the battle, scars he'd refused to have repaired. Let them see, he thought bitterly. Let them see what those primitives did to us. The humans, Ambassador Vrel's voice pulsed with barely contained fury, destroyed 6 of our ships. 6. Using debris and outdated chemical explosives. They turned garbage into weapons. This is humiliation beyond measure. It's worse than humiliation, growled General Krethix of the Vorn Collective, a species whose entire civilization was built on military precision. It's strategic brilliance disguised as chaos. I've reviewed the battle logs. Every move the humans made looked insane until you see the pattern. They sacrificed pawns to study our responses. They used our own assumptions against us. They fought like they've been doing it for their entire existence, Archon Telves finished, stepping into the light. The ancient historian looked even older than before, as if the weight of prophecy fulfilled had aged him centuries in mere months. Because they have. This is your fault, Telves. Zathrix's composure finally cracked. You warned us with your myths and legends, and we prepared accordingly. We brought overwhelming force. You brought a scalpel to a street fight, Telves interrupted. The Ancient Ones didn't warn against human technology, Chancellor. They warned against human nature. There is a difference. The holographic display shifted, showing Earth's historical archives, footage the Concord had intercepted during their reconnaissance. Humans in trenches, clawing through mud under chemical weapon fire. Humans in spacecraft held together with improvised repairs, limping home through the void. Humans on burning ships choosing to ram their enemies rather than retreat. They have a saying, Talves continued, a phrase that appears in dozens of their languages across thousands of years. Humanity, fuck yeah. The translations vary, but the meaning is constant. It is both a battle cry and a philosophy. It means we are imperfect, irrational, fragile, and we will beat you anyway. Then we return with a fleet they cannot possibly defeat, snarled Krethix. 10 times the numbers. 100 times. We glass their world from orbit and be done with it. And what happens? A new voice spoke from the shadows. When you try to exterminate a species that has survived every mass extinction event their planet could throw at them. Every delegate turned. From the darkness emerged a figure that should not exist. Tall, impossibly ancient, composed of something that was neither matter nor energy but the space between. A presence that made reality itself uncomfortable. An ancient one. The chamber erupted in shock. Delegates scrambled backward. Sathrix felt his legs give out, his body responding to genetic memory older than his civilization. I am called the Witness. The entity spoke, and its voice resonated in dimensions the chamber wasn't designed to contain. I am the last of those who shaped the First Age, and I am here to tell you what you have done. The Ancient Ones are extinct, Vrel whispered, her crystalline lattice flickering with terror. Extinct? No. The entity's form shifted, revealing glimpses of things that made sanity negotiable. We chose to sleep, to watch, to wait for something specific. It gestured, and a new hologram appeared. But this one showed not the present, but the deep past. The projection displayed a galaxy younger by 1 billion years, and in it 7 civilizations marked with that same symbol, the circle, the hand, the mark of the unbroken. In the First Age, called the Witness continued, we shaped species like artists shape clay. We made the perfect predators, the perfect philosophers, the perfect warriors. We created 10,000 civilizations and watched them grow according to our design. The projection showed worlds rising, thriving, falling in orderly succession. And it was boring, the Ancient One said, and there was something like humor in its impossible voice. Perfection is static, predictable, dead. So we began to experiment. We found worlds where evolution had produced something messy, chaotic, illogical, and we marked them, protected them, hid them from the civilizations that would fix them. Humanity, Talves breathed. Humanity was the last marked, called the Witness confirmed. We found them when they were still in trees, running from predators, barely surviving. And we saw their potential, not because they were strong, but because they were adaptable. Every time their world tried to kill them, they evolved. Every time they should have gone extinct, they found a way. They turned poison into medicine, prey animals into partners, deserts into gardens. The projection changed, showing human history and fast forward. Ice ages survived, plagues weathered. Wars fought and ended and fought again. They are the variable, the Ancient One said, the unpredictable element the cosmos needs to avoid stagnation. And we left instructions, warnings. We told every advanced civilization that would come after us, do not touch the marked. Do not interfere, because if you corner them, if you threaten them, they will show you what desperation looks like when wielded by a species that refuses to die. Sathrix found his voice. You protected them? For what purpose? Balance, called the Witness replied. Your conquered has achieved peace through homogeny. Every species thinking alike, acting alike, safe, stable, extinct in waiting. You have eliminated the chaos that drives evolution, the unpredictability that sparks innovation. You have built a beautiful cage and called it paradise. And humans will destroy it, Vrel said, understanding dawning with horror. No, the Ancient One corrected. Humans will change it. They will bring their chaos, their improvisation, their absolute refusal to accept impossible as an answer. They will force you to adapt, to think differently, to remember what it means to struggle and grow and live rather than merely exist. But we have rules, Sathrix protested. Order, civilization! And they have spite. The Ancient One's form shifted, showing something that might have been a smile. When you threatened their world, did they calculate odds? Did they surrender rationally? No. They strapped bombs to mining equipment and threw themselves at your warships. They turned their weakness into weapons. They won not because they were stronger, but because they refused to lose. General Krethik stepped forward. Then we have no choice. If they are a threat to order, we must eliminate them before they can spread. You can try, called the witness said. Gather your fleets. Bring overwhelming force. Reduce Earth to atoms if you wish. Then, but know this. Humanity is not just a species. They are a pattern, an idea, and you cannot kill an idea by destroying one world, because by now the entire galaxy has seen what they did. Every species you've integrated, every civilization you've guided into your perfect order, they all watched as humans made you retreat. They saw that the conquered can be beaten, that resistance is possible, that you are not inevitable. The Ancient One's presence seemed to expand, filling the chamber. You have awakened something far more dangerous than one species, Chancellor Zathrix. You have awakened hope, the hope that things can change, that underdogs can win, that chaos has value, and that spark, that human spark, will spread through your conquered like wildfire. Then what would you have us do? Zathrix asked, and for the first time in his life he sounded lost. Adapt, called the witness said simply, or become extinct. Those are the only choices the universe has ever offered. The humans know this. They learned it in caves hiding from predators. They remember it in their genes. Survival is not about being the strongest. It is about being the most willing to change. The Ancient One began to fade. Wait, Talvis called out. Why now? Why reveal yourself after 1,000,000 years? Because, called the witness replied, its voice already distant. The humans are ready, and the cosmos has been patient long enough. What comes next will reshape the galaxy. Civilizations will fall. Others will rise. The conquered may endure, but only if it learns to bend. We marked humanity as unbroken not because they cannot fail, but because every time they fall, they rise changed, stronger, wiser. The presence vanished completely, leaving only those final words hanging in the silence. The age of order is ending. The age of variables has begun. Make your choice. 6 months later, Earth, United Terran Assembly Commander Elias Ward, now promoted to Admiral of the Terran Defense Fleet, stood before the United Assembly. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in attendance, along with holographic observers from the Mars colonies and the Luna settlements. The Conquered has sent another envoy, Elias reported. This one asking to negotiate. On our terms. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. President Okafor of the African Union raised her hand for silence. They want to negotiate? After they tried to conquer us? More than that, Elias said. According to their transmission, 17 member species have already requested independent meetings with Earth, separately from the conquered. They want to, he paused, choosing his words carefully, learn from us. Learn what? Asked Premier Chen of the East Asian Coalition. How to be reckless. How to be free, Elias corrected. The Concord offers stability, safety, but it comes at a cost, your uniqueness, your chaos, your ability to make mistakes and grow from them. Apparently, we reminded the galaxy what that looks like. Director Ramirez of South America's voice was cautious. This Ancient One, the being that appeared at the Concord Council, do we trust its word? I don't know, Elias admitted. But I know this. Whatever its motives, it told the truth about us. We are messy, chaotic. We solve problems by hitting them with increasingly creative violence. We've nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. We're not perfect. He pulled up a display showing Earth from orbit. Home, beautiful and scarred and alive. But we're survivors. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy needed to be reminded that survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about being too stubborn to quit, too creative to accept defeat, too human to give up hope. The assembly sat in silence, absorbing his words. Finally, President Okafor spoke. So what do we do now, Admiral? How does humanity proceed? Elias smiled. It was the same smile he'd worn during the Battle of Mars. Sharp, dangerous, alive. We do what we've always done, Madam President. We adapt, we improvise. We overcome. The Conquered wants to negotiate? Fine, we'll talk. But we do it as equals, not subjects. Those 17 species want to meet? We'll teach them everything we know about chaos and improvisation and why impossible is just the universe's way of issuing a challenge. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of humanity's representatives. We were told we couldn't survive. We did. We were told we'd destroy ourselves. We haven't. We were told to surrender, and we fought back with mining equipment and spite. Now the galaxy is watching, waiting to see what we do next. And what do we do? Someone asked. We show them, Elias said, that humanity isn't just another species. We're a statement. A declaration to the cosmos that says you can't predict us. You can't control us. You can't break us. Because every time you try, we'll find a way to turn your own weapons against you. We'll make art out of your failures. We'll build hope from your despair. We'll take every no you give us and turn it into watch me. He gestured to the image of Earth. We're the variable, the chaos the universe didn't know it needed. And now that we're here, now that we've been seen and marked and tested, there's no putting us back in the box. The assembly rose as one. Not in celebration, not in triumph, but in recognition they were human, flawed, stubborn, creative, impossible, and the galaxy would never be the same. Epilogue, deep space, the architect's tomb in the darkness between stars, where reality grew thin and time lost meaning, called the witness returned to its long sleep. But before consciousness faded entirely, it allowed itself something it had not experienced in a million years. Pride. The humans had exceeded even its projections. They had not merely survived first contact, they had thrived. Turned weakness into strength. Made the conquered blink. And now, throughout the galaxy, in whispered conversations on 1,000 worlds, a new phrase was spreading. A concept, an idea, humanity, fuck yeah, it wasn't a curse. It wasn't a boast. It was something far more dangerous. It was a philosophy, the belief that imperfection could be power, that chaos could create, that being broken, flawed, messy, and mortal didn't make you weak, it made you real. The Concord would adapt or fall. Other civilizations would rise to take its place. The galaxy would shift and change and grow in ways no one could predict, because that was the point of the variable. Not to dominate, not to conquer, to inspire. As Called the Witness slipped into the darkness, its final thought echoed across dimensions. They were worth the wait. Now let's see what they become. And in the void, something older than stars itself began to smile.